and we made a survey within the environmental NGOs in Europe regarding business and biodiversity, also touching the valuation issue. And this is really a fear which they have. Most of the NGOs would like to cooperate within business and biodiversity. They would like to see that business really integrates biodiversity in their management systems. That means that their first step, they evaluate their impacts, as they are doing some of them within environmental management systems, how much water we are consuming, how much waste we are producing, and so on, which is also then you can quantify or start to quantify the impact on the ecosystem, because only healthy ecosystems can provide ecosystem services, and then, as you told in the evaluation hierarchy, to put a monetary value on maybe it's the last step, but first to start to do the first ones, and a lot of companies are still not doing the first step.
One last question. Question, please.
Thank you, Anders Wijkman, Stockholm Environment Institute. Thank you very much for very interesting presentations. I was struck by one thing, and that was your comment about the need to raise prices. So if I could have you comment on that. I mean, from Dow's perspective, once you take into account some of these aspects, and you increase your own costs because you avoid certain practices, you improve certain practices, you reduce your damages or whatever. When you then offer something in the marketplace, what is the reaction among consumers, and how do you relate to other chemical companies which do not take these actions?
It's a very good question, Anders. Thank you. A lot of this we cannot do unilaterally, just as an individual or as one company, and this is why we need increasing collaboration between governments and NGOs and academics, as well as industry partners, to help people see that we need to value ecosystem services in a very different way, and the ecosystems and the biodiversity that keeps them healthy. We have run several different experiments in our product lines with a variety of different kinds of products that would end up raising the costs in the marketplace, and we find a variety of reactions. Mostly what we find is that there is a small niche market, sometimes about 20% of the consumers in any particular market, that is willing to pay a premium as long as the product still functions in the same way that the previous product did, or better. In other words, they're not willing to take a compromise, but they will indeed prefer a green product, so to speak. The rest of the market doesn't care, and if you've raised your costs, they're not willing to pay you and compensate you. That's where the collaboration of society needs to come into play, where we have the appropriate regulation, the appropriate legislation, the appropriate public opinion change, and where this becomes a pre-competitive issue, where it's not just Dow, it's also BASF, it's also DuPont that's doing the same thing, and so we have no choice but to buy sustainable products and solutions into the future. That's the way that we're looking at this.
Okay, thanks very much, everybody. We've run out of time pretty much, but I'd just like to just pass on to Peter Bakker, who's the President of the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, just to give us some rounding up comments. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. This is a great part of my job. I get pushed into rooms and then have to make concluding remarks. But I was here for a while and quite impressed by the conversation, because I look at valuing nature as a journey. I don't think any of us have all the questions, but as long as we travel this journey together, we might find the best answers soon, and we need to find them soon, because the world is in pretty bad shape, as all of us here know. I think we need to help each other in talking a language that business understands. So I'm talking to my team, please don't talk about ecosystems and biodiversity and degradation, because I have no idea what you're talking about. You know, I'm just a simple business guy. Why don't you use the word natural capital, and all business people will understand what it is you're talking about. And we manage financial capital to the finite detail. And if we were to manage natural capital in the same rigorous way, nature would be much better off. And the same applies, by the way, to social capital. So I'm looking at a world where soon, with management of business and management of governments, of countries, by the way, we'll look at natural, social, and financial capital. And once we get these three in a balanced, managed way, then the world will be sustainable. So that, to me, is the end goal. The route to get there is by developing tools like the corporate guide for ecosystem valuation that WBCSD has published, and that is available for all of you to use, and I would encourage you to look at it. The second step will be, how will companies be pushing this into their reporting, into their accounting systems, and how are we going to adapt the accounting rules so not just progressive businesses like are on this stage will be using it, but that all businesses will be forced to use it. The third step is, how are we going to get the capital markets to then reward the businesses that do well and disincentivize the businesses who don't. And then we're going to get a momentum that will be the revolution that the world needs. I saw lots of people put up cards that 2020 it would all be done. That's going to be tight, but 2022 is an interesting target. But if you want us to push 2020, we'll go for that. So I think it's a totally important, probably the most important discussion going on in this Congress, because that is going to create the real momentum. But please be part of the journey, be a voice, a constructive voice, to build the systems, because we don't have all the answers yet. But thanks a lot for coming out. Thanks for everybody who organized it. Thanks, Nick, for moderating it. And have a great Congress. Okay.
Thank you all very much.